Jason. Once again, time for another edition of Husker Chat, brought to you by Acres Equipment. We're joined by Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online. Sean, it's always interesting with Husker football. This week has certainly been very interesting. What's your take on all of this Matt Rule and the Penn State coaching situation?
Let's just get right down to it, right, Jason? Yeah, it's been an interesting week, to say the least, just because of the nature of this job. I think when Matt Rule got the Nebraska job, he always like, well, there'll be one job that will always be there if it ever opened. And honestly, I didn't think anything would ever happen to James Franklin. I thought, the guy's going to retire there. He's won enough games, almost played for the national title last year. And so to see it unravel so quickly, and here we are now, it's been wild. But look, there's going to be 6, 7, 8 weeks of this now, and things are going to kind of be quiet, and they'll get loud again, and who knows where it goes. But there's no doubt it's a topic of discussion. If you don't think it is, I don't know what to tell you, because there's no question this is going to be something that we're all going to watch closely over the next month or two.
A lot of folks have weighed in on this with their opinions. You and I have both been at this long enough to know that where there is smoke, there is fire. But and I know the connection is there, but has Matt Rule done enough at other spots and even at Nebraska for the folks there at Penn State to be excited if he were hired as head coach?
Yeah, I think you can look at Matt Rule's background in a lot of different ways, but the record against ranked teams, for example, when he was at Temple and Baylor, they really weren't supposed to win ranked games. They were a bottom team for those years when he got those jobs, and he got them to a point where they could play at that level, which was a huge accomplishment. He took over Nebraska, which had not gone to a bowl game since 2016. Year two gets them back to the bowl. They still haven't got that ranked win, but you're right, he still hasn't broken through, and I do think they project to break through this year. I think that's when you look at Nebraska, this is easily a team that could be at 9, maybe 10 wins the way it looks down the stretch, but they also could be back down to 7. I mean, the margin from, say, 7 to 9 wins is that small right now for Nebraska. And we know that because look at Cincinnati, look at Michigan State, look at Maryland. The whole conversation is different, but they found ways to win those games where maybe in past years, Nebraska loses those games.
How about the matchup at Maryland? It didn't look good, but give them credit. They found a way down the stretch to win against a decent team.
Yeah, Maryland had some good athletes. Like I was on the field pregame warmups watching their receivers and that quarterback Malik Washington, and you knew right away, like, wow. I mean, they've got talent on this roster. They're in a great recruiting area. 8 true freshmen play heavy minutes or start for them, and they gave Nebraska everything they wanted. I mean, I think what you want to see from Nebraska is, can they finish off a game? They get up 10-0. Michigan State, they get up 14-0. And they, even the Cincinnati game, go back to week 1, Nebraska had the ball to open the third quarter. If they, score on that drive, game might be over. And I think that's the next step for this team. When they get up, can they then take that finishing step versus kind of letting an opponent stay in the game and then making it kind of a back and forth fight like we've had to see against Cincinnati, against Michigan State, and against Maryland.
Today we're talking with Sean Callahan, the Husker, with the publisher of Husker Online. All things Nebraska, a lot going on. This week, Friday night matchup against Minnesota. When the Huskers joined the Big Ten, I think a lot of people thought, hey, they'll always be able to beat Minnesota. That's not been the case. I mean, it's shocking how the Gophers have owned this series with the Big Red.
Yeah, as of late, I mean, they've only beaten PJ Fleck one time in his 9 years, and that was Scott Frost's opening year in 2018. It was his first win as a Husker head coach. Mike Riley had a win in 2015. But you're right, it kind of turned at some point for whatever reason. Nebraska has always been probably favored in the point spread in 90 or 80% of these games, but Minnesota has found a way to win them. And that's what scares you a little bit about Friday night. This might be as down of a PJ Fleck team in terms of how the roster's built and the injuries they're dealing with that we've seen, and the point spread reflects that. I mean, the Huskers are anywhere from a 7.5 to 8.5 point favorite on the road on a short week. which is very telling because if this game was in Lincoln, that's probably a 14-point line. But I think a lot of us are smart enough to know it's not going to be that easy. It's going to be a hard fought game. PJ Fleck has found ways to beat Purdue and Rutgers when they probably could have lost both games. They did lose at Cal, and obviously Ohio State did blow them out. But this is a team that still figures out a way to stay in the fight, and that's what worries you a little bit about Nebraska because they've struggled maybe finishing off a game like this, and that will be the challenge, I think, Friday night if they get up on these guys.
In the past, Husker fans have traveled pretty well to the Twin Cities to watch this one. Any gauge on what the crowd looks like on Friday night?
I think every time we've been there, it's probably been around 10,000 Husker fans, and some of the years it might have been more in the early Big Ten years. This is our 15th year in the league now, which is hard to believe. But the one time I can remember it being really raucous on the other end was 2 years ago on a Thursday night game for Matt Rule when he opened. It was sold out, State Fair weekend in Minneapolis, and you had all the students there. I think that is the one challenge about this game. On a Friday night, you probably are going to get a good student crowd here at this game versus, say, an 11 a.m. In Minnesota, winning some of these close games helps kind of push their crowd over. It's a very finicky market, as you know, being a pro sports market where, either they're all in or they're all out on the Gophers. And I think people are still kind of in on this team. So the crowd will be, I would imagine, fairly close to full, but there'll be 10,000 Nebraska fans, I'm sure, that make their way in there. And we saw how big an advantage that was last week at Maryland.
Well, Sean, as always, we appreciate the time. Have a safe trip, and hopefully Nebraska finally can figure out a way to beat the Gophers.
All right. Hey, thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too. And that was Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online, joining us for Husker Chat. Coming to you every week, and is brought to you by Acres Equipment. I'm Jason Jorgensen.